Hello and welcome to the Be Your Own podcast. I'm your host, Samana Duran, and founder of Be Your Own, the global media hub of all things entrepreneurship and career navigation. As you know, this podcast is all about highlighting incredible women out there doing awesome things. Today, we are back for another episode of the Be Your Own podcast, and I'm joined by British businesswoman Ros Simmons. Currently, Ros Simmons is the UK and EU's Managing Director of MONAT Global, a luxury vegan hair and skincare label. With over 30 solid years of international experience within the beauty industry, I'm really keen to understand how Ros believes the future of the beauty industry will continue to innovate and how consumer behaviour will change as a reflection post-pandemic. How exciting to have one of the UK's original beauty entrepreneurs join us today, because I remember you from the Virgin Vie days.
I did. And actually, I'm probably getting to the stage of my career when I look back and think, my gosh, I have worked for some amazing companies because I started off at the Body Shop in the heyday, back in Anita Roddick's day, and was there for over 7 years as brand manager for colorings. And then, I was one of the founders of Virgin Cosmetics, Virgin Vie. So, I've been in the industry, and it's the best industry, I have to be honest. The beauty industry is the best. And I took about a year out, about 10 years ago, and hated not being in the beauty industry. So, I feel very fortunate that I've been in an industry that is constantly changing. It's constantly innovative in terms of new products and formulas. And we always want to look our best. We want to look the best we can, not necessarily being a younger version of ourselves, but being the best we can. And I think that's what this industry does. I think it helps us all, particularly women, be the best version of ourselves.
But I don't see it around that much anymore.
It's not around at all, actually, which is really sad because, long story short, but we did a management buyout and then sold to a German company who unfortunately went out of business with other companies that they had purchased. So it was really, really sad. But I think our claim to fame really was, and it's the P2K car shares are being shown again everywhere at the moment. And what's the girl's name who sits in the car next to him? Anyway, she says, and I've just had a Virgin Vie makeover party. I mean, that was like, it's so funny because on social, I'm getting people saying, remember this. This is so funny. So you're right. It was really big. We had at one point, oh my gosh, I lose track of how many people we had, but we had probably 20,000 people in the UK.
Alone?
But what we also did, and I think people, forget this, we had jewellery and we had most amazing homeware. And I literally was changing all my bedding last night and found some of my original Virgin Vie bedding, which was beautiful, 400 thread count. And it's like being in a hotel. It's like a hotel collection. So we did things in style, and I'm very thankful that I've moved to a company that I've been to almost 3 years now that is very high end luxury as well, but affordable. I mean, I think this is the thing with formulas and packaging. You can, if you've got really smart people developing product, you can get great formulas that work. Packaging looks amazing as well, because that's really important in the beauty industry, but you also can make it affordable. So I think, that for me is always the test. If I didn't work for this company, would I buy it? And, whenever I've been developing or working for companies, that's always quite important to me, because I always think as a consumer. Yes, I work for a company, but I also think as a consumer, would that appeal to me? When I was approached by the company 3 years ago, the first thing I obviously did was look at the products, and it was like, okay, well, if you wanted to send me some, which they did. And It's the bathroom shelf test. Do they look good in your bathroom? Tick, yes. Do they work? And yes, they do. And obviously my background was predominantly skin and makeup. I hadn't really ever sold hair care before. At Virgin, we had a very small range, but I didn't know a lot about hair care, so I had to learn quickly. And then one of my colleagues who's worked with me for 20 odd years in different companies, she said, Ros, you've got to do this because hair care is the new skincare. And when she sort of told me, because she'd come from working in companies also like Space NK, which was, very on trend and knew where the consumer demand was going. And it was for premium product hair care that really worked. And again, one of the things that really appealed to me was that the company was vegan right from the outset. Now, I'm not vegan, but if I have a choice of products that are going to work that are vegan, I will always use them. So the company was really ahead of its time 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, when it started creating its brand and decided it was going to be vegan from the outset. So I think, that again, it's not, I never want to just pick up on what the current trend is, but what are the long-term trends? Yes. I think that's really important for people as well, that, it's very easy for companies to jump on a bandwagon of a trend, but it has to be sort of deep down. What is your belief? What is the best for your brand, but also best for your consumers long term? So that's again, very, very proud that we were vegan from the outset.
Yes, because you are considered a vegan luxury brand. I think there's so many brands that are jumping on that whole bandwagon now, though. I like to call it fanfaring, and it's just not authentic at all.
I talk about authenticity a lot because I do think it's not a buzzword, but it does actually give credence to your brand in terms of, are you here for the long term? And I've never, I like being around brands and companies that are thinking long term rather than let's just make a quick buck and get out of here. It's got to be long term in terms of the customer experience. And I think in lockdown, and you've probably read the same articles as I have, but there are brands and companies that have treated us really well in lockdown. Mm-hmm. And there are others where you think, oh, okay, I really wish you hadn't said that, or I really wish you had communicated with me on something. Yeah. And I think we will be, I hope as consumers, we're a bit more discerning in terms of where we shop and look after those people and those companies who, looked after us in lockdown, particularly local food shops. I think that's going to be a real test of whether we then go back to shopping mainstream or whether we continue supporting our local shops that looked after us in lockdown. It's going to be an interesting pattern emerging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few shops I have in mind that I'm completely boycotting.
I was going to say, it's going to be interesting in years to come when they do studies to see how people's shopping and behaviour changed during and then continued after lockdown, and if it just went back to the norm. It will be fascinating, I think.
I think it will also be very fascinating to see how people still communicate with one another and if they're super keen to keep that connection momentum going, because that's definitely been a benefit for me during lockdown.
Well, ultimately, we were always destined to chat as people, weren't we? So I think, we're using any opportunity to have contact with people and make conversation. I think that's the bit that I've missed most. I actually was very fortunate. 2 weeks ago, we had two of our girls had qualified for cars. They'd qualified to receive a car. So, and they both wanted, we always do really nice car presentations. One was in Battersea at actually a Land Rover garage, and the other we did outside our offices in Milton Keynes. And I tell you, it was like Christmas. I felt so excited to be going into London, which I drove into London. I live in Sussex, and it took me 45 minutes. It was like, oh my God, this is bliss. Mm-hmm. If only every day was like this. And then driving to our offices and presenting a car. Again, car park was empty. And, you know, it was just very lovely to see people face to face, but very odd, not hugging. It's a strange one. I'm so close to the girls, and particularly the girls who had qualified. Very, very strange not being able to give someone a hug.
Agreed. I think a hug definitely solves loads of things. So back to your career then. You've had 30 incredible years within the industry. How did you get your foot in the door?
Well, do you know, it is a bit of an obvious thing to say, being in the right place at the right time. Certainly. I actually trained at the London College of Fashion as a beauty therapist, but actually never really wanted to be a beauty therapist, but I wanted to do something in the beauty industry. And, you know, it was hard to know what to do. And my very, very first job was actually at a cosmetics manufacturer who supplied, they supplied Marks and Spencer's, they supplied all sort of the up-and-coming supermarkets back then, Miss Selfridge, and I went in as brand manager. Oh no, I went in as an account manager. An account manager. I was a salesperson, but I joined because they liked I had a beauty background. And I remember I developed My Little Pony makeup, which was really quite cute. But then one of the accounts I had was the Body Shop, which was quite tiny back then. And the makeup it was literally just launching. And then I got headhunted by the Body Shop to join the main corporate offices, and was given two choices. I could either join as a product manager or a buyer, and immediately thought, oh my gosh, I want to do product development. That would be amazing. And that's how I got my first start. I was very fortunate. I had, I've always worked really hard, purely because I've always wanted to do the best job I could possibly do. So worked my way up within Body Shop, and then a group of us decided, wouldn't it be fun, as you do over a few glasses of wine, to sort of create your own brand? And that's how the whole Virgin concept came up. We obviously didn't have any money to create a brand. We knew the type of brand we wanted to do, and went to Virgin, who at that time were really brand extending, and they gave us money to get the whole thing going. So I actually joined as marketing director back in, where are we? 1996. Gosh, this is going to really age me. I joined as marketing director, and then again, as things happened, I was there for 15 years, moved up through the ranks, became managing director, and then did a management buyout, which I look back, it was an incredibly brave move to do. It was highly risky, but at that time Virgin were looking to stop diversifying and really focus on core parts of their business, such as travel and money and mobile and gyms. And there are about 100 odd companies that they really wanted to, I guess in simple terms, get shot of, so that their focus was very clear. So I was fortunate to have an ex-business partner who said, well, you should put a bid in. And he really helped me enormously because I was, a bit green on that front. And we put a bid in, and we were successful. But it was a brave move, because we had to, within, I think it was about 9 months, we had to change the name of the company from Virgin Vie to remove the word Virgin, so rebrand it, and which we did really successfully. But at the same time, we knew the direct selling part of the business was always profitable, but we also had retail stores, we had factory outlet stores, we had spas and gyms, we had a complete portfolio. We truly were multi-channel and a growing e-commerce business as well. So we made the brave decision, rather sadly, to close all our retail outlets, which made the business much more profitable. And at that point, we were made an offer for the company that my business partner, I'm still very good friends with him, but he said, no, we've got to take it. And we took it. And at that point, it sort of went a little bit sour, unfortunately. They had bought a lot of different companies in the direct selling arena, and I think it just overstretched themselves. So I left shortly after the acquisition by them, and went into sort of a mini, I wouldn't say meltdown, but it was a most strange situation. When you've worked for an organization for such a long time, it becomes it is your daily activity of working and living and breathing a company. And I look back now, and I didn't have a meltdown, but I definitely was completely out of sorts and wasn't quite sure what to do. Wasn't quite sure where to go next. And actually what I did do is I joined a licensing company, which I hated, if I'm really honest, because I don't know how much you know about licensing, but when you work for a licensing company who are acting on behalf of brands, you're making recommendations and suggestions of how they can extend their brand. One of the brands I had was Coca-Cola, which was great from a global perspective, but incredibly frustrating when you're not the brand owner to be able to influence. You can influence, but you can't help make that final decision because you're not the brand owner. Yeah. So I did that for a year, and if I'm honest, hated it. And it wasn't really in the beauty industry either. That was my one year out of thinking, oh, I don't like this. And I also really, really missed the direct selling industry, and didn't realize how much I was going to miss it. So was then headhunted to join a company called BEYOUROWN, which was a company that I didn't know anything about, but was actually very big in the States. And it was all around nutrition and weight loss. So, and it had a very different business model to one I had been used to. But I actually was there for 3 years. I learned a load along the way. I made some really good friends. And then, I'm waffling on here, but I'm just thinking of all the things I've done. Then I was then approached to join, to set up another company called My Beauty. And I'm really going to skip over that because I think it's one of those ones where, you live and learn so quickly. Again, cut to the quick. We created, and I'm very proud of what we did. We created a very beautiful brand, and I was responsible for the brand and its product and the marketing of it. And unfortunately, my boss got sued by his ex-company.
Oh dear.
And the company had to stop trading. So that again was another stressful moment. And I guess my moral of the story is, yes, I've had a long career, but it hasn't always been upward. It's been up, down, up, down. I think as a graph, you would probably see it's been quite steady, but I look back and think, my gosh, I really did have some very scary, sleepless night scenarios where you just think, what is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do, not just for me, but actually for my team, because I've got a loyal group of people who I'm very lucky have followed me from company to company, but also what is right for the field, our self-employed consultants. Again, I've got a lot of friends that go back to my Virgin Vie days who, even if they're not with my current company, I'm still friends with them, because what the industry and direct selling does, you create lifelong friends. So after the company that we'd set up, and then it just had to stop, I then was headhunted by MONAT, and I'm really grateful that my name was picked out, and I have a very gorgeous job looking after UK and Europe. We just launched earlier this year into Ireland, which is doing phenomenally well, and Poland, which is doing even better. It's just very, I guess for me, rewarding to see people who really need and want to earn money, earning money, but doing it in a way that culturally I am very proud of. You know, we don't as a company really talk about a lot about the money side of things, because you know that it's always, you know, the harder you work, yes, the more you will earn money. But at the same time, you know, I'm very happy and very grateful that we are able to help people earn 200 quid a month or £1,000 a month, whatever they're looking to earn. We have a great business model that enables them to do that. And you know, it's been fascinating because when lockdown happened, I think we were all in a bit of a, oh my gosh, what's this going to mean to us? But what it's actually meant, because we were always predominantly online, our business has been flourishing. Each month we have grown. You know, March on February was something like 50% up. April was up. May was up. June is also up. And, you know, I'm really, really grateful that we've been able to, you know, maintain and grow our market partner base, but also our customer base. I mean, our customer numbers have been phenomenal. I again, you know, hats off to our promoters out there who are, you know, talking to people and getting people signed up as our VIPs. So yeah, that's my story. I've talked, but it's quite cathartic actually going back and talking about some of the things that you've done. But I actually blame my dad, who sadly is no longer with us. But I always, as a child, wanted a girl's world. You know, one of those great big girls' heads that you can put makeup on. And he really, I don't really know what sort of ambitions he had for me, but he really didn't want me to have a girl's world. And so when I did go into the beauty industry, I mean, he was still alive then, and I think he probably then think, okay, maybe if I'd have given her a girl's world, she may have changed direction and gone on and been a, I don't know, doctor or something more worthy than being in the beauty industry.
I think what you've built and what you've done is incredibly awesome. How are you transferring your expertise and your skills over to Monet?
I think it's a really good question. I think the skills that I've been able to transfer, I would say, would probably be my management skills. You know, there are certain things that are a given. You know, making sure that, you know, your company and the model that you're following here for Europe is financially sound. Obviously, that goes without saying. But people management is really important, and I think you can't underestimate how important that is. As I mentioned earlier, I've got 4 girls who have been with me in 3 different companies so far, and I'm really proud of that, because I think it shows that whilst they would all say I work them very hard, they'd laugh as they're hearing this. I do work my team incredibly hard. I do, and I you know, get a little bit scared of the things I get them to do, because they work so hard. But at the end of the day, they would all say they're better for it, because we are so close as a team. There truly isn't anything I ask them to do that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And so I would say how to manage people in times of lockdown, I think, has been incredibly important as well. We do a daily Zoom with my direct reports, and then I do a daily Zoom with all our UK and European teams. And it might only be for 10 minutes, but we're always on camera. And we always have a fun Friday. This week's fun Friday is they've got to send a photo of their secret crush, which is fascinating. And it's just a giggle. But I think, you know, when you're not in an office together, it's even more important that you connect on Zoom. So yes, those would be, I think the key thing for me would be making sure you stay true to who you are as a manager. And you know, I work hard, and I do expect a lot from my team. But at the same time, I think and hope they would say I'm generous in what I give back to them as well. I think the other skills I guess I've learned along the way is, naturally I'm a very organized person. And again, working with people that you've worked with for a long time, you end up speaking in shorthand. So they will know very quickly what I'm expecting from them with a new task or a new project. I think that the challenge sometimes is when you've got a very fast growing company that is based out of Miami. I think that in itself has challenges because the company is growing at such a fast rate. So I hope I've been able to impart a little bit of my previous knowledge in terms of company organizations and structures, and whether you go global on some things and local on the others. That for global companies, that's always the big debate, is how much do you have globally versus how much do you let the local markets adapt so that you don't lose the brand. And I think, probably my value to the company is the fact that I'm a very strong advocate of brand. Whatever company it is, brand is everything. So I never do anything that would damage the brand. I hope I only do things that enhance the brand. And, within the UK, we've been, one of the things that I think actually has helped maybe the company overall is my belief in the power of PR. We work with a wonderful agency called Essence PR, who I came across. It was so funny. I came across Essence when myself and one of my colleagues went to a trade show, and we were up for one award. I can't remember what we were up for, very, very early in our launch plan here. And a woman in front of me was getting up and collecting awards for a particular hair care brand. I can't remember which one it was. She was going up like time and time again. And afterwards I said, I want to know who you are and what you're doing and why are you collecting all these awards? And it was Sam from Essence. And I said, fantastic. I want to work with you so you can do our PR. And I think the power of PR is quite underestimated by direct selling companies. They don't really see the power of it. But it is so powerful when you see a magazine, whether it's online or in print, with your product in, it's third-party endorsement. And, it's a relatively cheap thing to do, to have a PR agency who are acting as your voice with beauty journalists and editors and so on. So I'm really, really thankful. We've got a great agency who has helped us win a lot of awards and has helped us get great PR. So that's something that I think the company has realized, that's a great thing to do. So they do something similar in Canada, and they really are now kicking it off in US as well. So I like to think that's something I've been able to impart. And again, of course, my product background means I probably drive the product people mad with the knowledge that I have, because, I do question and say, what is that ingredient going to do? And can we claim this? And are we sure we can claim that here in Europe? Because claims are very different and formulas have to be different for Europe. So, I'm very fortunate that I have got a very well-rounded background, but I guess, because I've been around a long time, I've seen how you constantly have to change. You can't stand still. I'm one of these people who's always thinking, right, what are we doing? How are our sales going to be next month? We've got great sales this month, and we've had great sales really all year, but gosh, what's next year going to be? What's next month going to be like? What's autumn going to be like? I'm a bit of a worrier, and making sure that we've got enough promotional activity and strategic plans in place so that we can make sure that we've got a strong model for our market partners to keep on earning money in these difficult times. And also, there's only so much time you can say, I think our product is really great. Sometimes you need someone else to tell other people, actually, this product is really good, and here's why. You're never the prophet in your own land. And I think, that's because Essence have got such a strong pedigree in hair and skincare. They know the people to talk to. And, it was an area, as I said to you earlier, that, I really didn't have a lot of background in hair care. And thankfully, Sam, who runs Essence, has. And, I've learned so much from her in terms of positioning and along the way, we've met some amazing stylists. We call them, MONAT converts.
Yeah.
We're doing some really good blogs. So actually Instagram lives, did a great one yesterday. In fact, we've done a few. What was the one yesterday? Anyway, it'll be on our Instagram, but it was very, very good. We did one the other week with Ros Simmons, and I remember her name because it's very similar to mine. But yeah, we've done, I think that's when it's been quite funny, picking up your point very early on about how lockdown has helped companies. I think that's one of the things it's enabled us to do, that normally people would be out and about on shoots. They're not able to do that. So it's been fantastic to get them on an Instagram live and hear their top tips, whether it's lockdown beauty, whether it's, red carpet styles, or just generally chatting about good skincare and why good skincare helps create a good makeup base. Do you know, we use a lot of user generated. We use a lot. And yes, we're lucky we've got great content coming from in-house. But I think if you look at where, keeping our feed and our stories interesting and relevant, it has to be user generated content.
It does.
Otherwise it all becomes a bit too samey. I love when we repost, whether it's a stylist has quoted us or whether it's one of our market partners. Our market partners are so creative, I have to say. And I think, that the types of shots you can get off an iPhone these days are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest changes that's happened really over the last probably 2 or 3 years, that you can get the most amazing photos from a good old mobile phone. You don't have to be a, professional photographer. You can get really good content. And, I'm very lucky. One of the girls who works for me, Chloe, is great at social media in her own right. And she does social media training for our team, market partners, every Tuesday and Thursday, giving top tips. And it could be something as simple as the use of hashtags. It could be how to create your bio on Instagram. It goes from very basic to a little bit more sophisticated stuff. But what we talk about more than ever is be authentic with who you are on Instagram. Don't just follow the herd, just find who you are and keep your brand, your personal brand, as authentic as you can. And I think that's why, I'm really proud. If you look at our feed, which is a lot of user generated content, it is quite diverse. It's fascinating, but it's all very, I would say it flows rather nicely.
So if we go back to what we said in the very beginning about being transparent and being authentic as a brand, especially if you're going to be using user generated content, because the typical consumer now is really super savvy.
You're absolutely right. It is. We're all savvy. We can see through it. Whatever brand it is, we all are savvy consumers. And it's like, okay, I know what you're trying to pitch me here, and I don't really like it. But one of the things we do every day within our own private group with our partners is we do a daily challenge. And that daily challenge, which is always, our hashtag for them would be Go Social. And we give top tips, we give suggestions, and it might be, I don't know, what are we on Wednesday today? It might be, talk about your, not a good example, but talk about your skincare routine. And so we will then tomorrow say who the winner was. So we can see the content. They're tagging us, which is brilliant because it means we've got a ready-made stream of user-generated content. It's so easy. By doing this, it's helping them, but it's also helping us create our stories over the next couple of days. It's brilliant.
So with the growth of the beauty industry contributing almost 30 billion to the UK economy alone, what do you think is going to be the future of the beauty industry for you? How do you think you will personally shape up post-COVID? Because according to McKinsey, they're expecting to see a fall of up to 30% globally.
I do, I went into my local town at the weekend and went into Boots and was slightly horrified because when you look at the makeup counters, whether it's Estee Lauder, Clinique, Elizabeth Arden, there are no testers. There's nothing out there at all. And I was thinking, gosh, I really could do with a new foundation. How am I, because we've all been outside a little bit more than normal, my skin color is slightly different. And I do think it is going to be challenging. I think if you're a makeup brand, I think and I haven't given it any consideration because I don't have a makeup brand, but I think it's going to be really challenging. And whether you give lots more samples, whether you're very clear on free returns, I think when you've got something that is very personalized like makeup, I think it's going to be quite hard. When you've got products such as we have, which we're very fortunate, like skin and hair, which deliver results in terms of, I've got fine flyaway hair, tell me what I need.
Yeah.
I've got, unruly hair, tell me what I need. So I think it's much easier to prescribe, let's say, skin and hair care online than it is with other beauty products. I think we're all probably, I think makeup is probably one of the challenging areas of how do you can repeat buy your favorite products, that's fine, but the lure of makeup is all about newness as well. We're all looking for a new color or something to perk us up, and I think that is going to be quite challenging for the industry. And yeah, good luck, guys, because that is going to be much harder. So yes, for us, I think our challenge at the moment is we are used to doing events, and I am really not very for doing events, obviously, or even planning events right now. I'd much rather continue the momentum we've got, which has been very successful online, and keeping that focus going. I think the balance is going to be is when do you start doing training events? We've done a lot of, we do training every single evening of the week. I mean, my team are phenomenal. They're like robots, really, in terms of the amount of training they're doing. That's very inspirational. Yeah. And they're getting great numbers of people. We had a call last night in Poland on skincare. There were 500 people on a Zoom on a Tuesday night. Wow. Phenomenal. So I think whilst that's working, I'd much rather continue doing that than start booking hotels and having people spaced out and, with social distancing, and people also feeling uncomfortable about going in some cases. So it's, for all of us, it's quite a challenge. It's nothing is, no person or industry is not affected in some manner, either positively or negatively. Every single person is affected, and we're all having to change the way we work. As I say, I'm very fortunate that we've got a very strong online business that has stood through the last few months, and I see no reason why it won't continue. That face-to-face element is more challenging in the beauty industry.
Do you think at some point you will offer that in-store beauty experience?
Within the direct selling industry, there are companies who are multi-channel. I've been down that route in Virgin, where we had stores, we had direct selling, and in my personal experience, it's very hard. You cannot compete. You can't compete with a self-employed sales force. It's mean. It's a really mean thing to do. And the companies who are doing it, hats off to them. It's a fine line. Personally, it's something I can't endorse. I think you are either a direct to consumer, or you are a retailer. You cannot be both, in my personal experience. I actually hate going into department stores and going to the beauty counters. I hate it.
It's also forced.
Yeah. And the girls who work on the counters, hats off to them, because they do not have an easy job. No. Because they're faced with people like you and I, who are like, do not sell to me, do not sell to me. I don't want to. I'm just on a walking past. I just want to look at the testers, which going forward we're not going to be able to do either. So, yeah, I think that whole psyche and purchasing of color cosmetics, particularly, is really going to be quite interesting. I haven't actually apart from, as I said, at the weekend when I saw all the testers removed, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard for people. I'm sure the beauty companies out there will have some really clever techniques though. They're, as I say, this industry, go back way back to when we first started talking, this industry is phenomenal at being inventive and creative.
Yeah.
And, I'm such an advocate of the beauty industry because of the innovation and the newness and the freshness that it generates. And I'm actually excited to think what the makeup companies particularly are going to come up with. I'm sure they'll come up with something really incredible that will solve our problems.
I think you only have to look at the past decade to see just how far the beauty industry has evolved and how the creativity and the innovation has just become so unlimited. I understand Monet is working really hard to improve the overall growth and excellence of the beauty industry. What can we expect to see from you guys?
I'm actually really, really proud that we're patrons. And I think, again, it's such a massive industry that let's say big business people sort of have poo-pooed. I don't think they realise the impact the beauty industry has on our economy. I can't remember the numbers either. I've got a memory like a sieve at the moment, but it's something like 4 billion keeps coming to mind, and in terms of what we generate in terms of revenue. And it's all these other industries that get attached, whether it's threading, nails, all the other things that are really hair, obviously. So when I met the team, I really loved that they were going to be promoting the industry, and it's been a sort of unsung hero. So that was number one. That is the prime reason why I joined. And actually they have done some great, I would say slightly ahead of its time, talks. They did an amazing one last November on diversity in the beauty industry, which was very thought-provoking. So again, ahead of its time, and that's what I love about Millie particularly. She's not scared of being brave in terms of standing up for what needs to happen within all industries, but particularly the beauty industry. So that's why we're really proud to be partners there. What's going ahead for us? Well, we are launching a new category. If you loved what we've done on skincare, you're going to love the next chapter of Monat's history. So that's all I can share with you. But it's obviously within the health and beauty industry, and it is a natural extension to our current ranges. And it's not makeup, thankfully.
Oh. It's been really great having you today on the Be Your Own podcast. Thank you so much, Ros.
Thank you so much for asking me. I've really enjoyed chatting and must meet up.
Thank you so much for listening. Please let us know what you think of the show. Don't forget you can find us on both Instagram and Twitter at Be Your Own UK. Our email address is beyourown@beyourown.org. So make use of it and drop us an email with anything that you want to know. If you fancy reading pretty much all of the career navigation stuff we talk about here on the podcast, then head over to beyourown.org for exclusive content, interviews, tools and resources. And lastly, if you love the show, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, either on Stitcher, iTunes or Spotify. And that's it from me. See you next time.